You've seen this before, haven't you? Two lines across that intersect each other like this. Okay, we're going to go through a lot of vocab. We're going to go through a lot of vocab just to kind of make sure we're on the same page. So when I refer to something, when I say, hey, go to quadrant 3 and write the coordinate of blah, 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 then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Again, I want to make sure we're all on the same page on this. Now, a lot of times we'll put arrows.
Did you draw those lines?
I did. Aren't they pretty?
Yeah.
I just did. I just did it like 2 seconds ago. You didn't see
I
me?
bet you can't do it again.
What? What are you talking about? Jamie, man, you're giving away my secrets. See, look how perfect that is. I could do that every time. What are you talking about? See, now he's not as impressed with me. I mean, look at my arrows. Look how terrible they are. All right, so here we go. We got 2 lines right here, but they're not just called lines. What do we call this thing? An axis, right? And this is which axis? The X. Okay, the horizontal is the X-axis. That's supposed to be an A. It kind of looks like a Q or something, but it's an axis. Okay, so this is the X-axis, and the vertical one, of course, would be what then? The Y-axis. All right. Just for fun, the plural, if I talk about 2, you don't say 2 axes. You see axes, right? All right. Somebody in the other class said axi for plural. I said, that's a good try. It sounds kind of cool, but they don't say axi. They say axes. So the plural would be axes. All right. So the plural is axes. Anyway, there's an X. The horizontal is X, and the vertical is the Y-axis. All right. Let's see where I want to go here. They're also these 2 lines right here. They intersect each other, but they also break this whole thing into 4 different chunks. Do you see that? And we have a word for that. Do you remember what the word is for those? Quadrants. Good. And we number the quadrants. Let's write the word quadrant down. Quadrant is what? What P and L? Plural. PL for plural. Plural is axes. Eventually, at the end of the year. Okay, so quadrant is what what these 4 things. Why quad? What's the prefix quad mean? 4, right. There's 4 of them, so that's what the prefix quad means, okay? We number them, and we number them with Roman numerals. I don't know why, they just do. So the top right one is the first quadrant. Which way do we go? Do we go down?
To the left.
We go to the left, yes. We go to the left, or in math, what would we call it? We'd call this clockwise, so this would be what? Counterclockwise, right. So this would be the second quadrant. Then you go down, keep going counterclockwise, third quadrant, and fourth quadrant. Again, it's just for ease. If I say, okay, this point's in the third quadrant, then you know what I'm talking about. And from time to time, we'll say that. We can also, these lines right here, these axes, are actually number lines. Right? You did number lines when you were a kid, right? And we'll put the little hash mark thingies here. Now these should be equally displaced, equally spaced out, but I just kind of did it rough, but you get the idea. Now, if we start here, right here is at the beginning. We have a special name for that beginning part right here. Good, we call it the origin. All right. Now, if we go to the right of the origin, which kind of numbers are to the right? Positive. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can keep going if you wanted to. Of course, to the left of the origin would be negative numbers. So -1, -2, -3, -4. Good. Let's go up. If we go up, what kind of numbers are they going up?
Positive.
They're positive going up. 1, 2, 3, 4. So going up is positive, going to the right is positive. Going to the left is negative, and what else? Going down is negative. So -1, -2, -3, -4. We good so far? It's all coming back, isn't it? Now, the reason that we do all this stuff is because what we want to do is we want to find the coordinate of a point. Let me write that word down. Coordinate. Am I spelling that right? For some reason. I can't. Man, my writing's terrible on this. Let's try to make that look a little bit nicer. Let's try this again. It. There we go. That's much better. Now it's spelled right. The writing's still not much better, but you get the idea. All right, so that's coordinate. At least I spelled it right. So the coordinate is basically the location of a point, where the point is located. All right. I don't know if you watch like army movies or war movies and stuff like that. Every once in a while. Shh, okay, I didn't ask you a comment. Just listen, please. All right. This is not a free for all. If you watch these war movies and stuff, every once in a while, they'll be mapping out where they're going to bomb the city or something like that, and they'll say, okay, what's the coordinates, all right? Even in like GPS, they'll say, okay, what's your coordinates? What's your GPS coordinate? You ever hear that word before? Okay, so that's very, very important. This is like the most basic you could probably ever get when we talk about coordinate systems, but we use coordinate systems all the time. I mean, it used to be, I remember telling the first story about GPS, and kids are like, what? They can tell where you are? And they couldn't believe that there were satellites up there, okay, mapping every single location. Now, everybody's just used to it, you know? Who has a GPS in their car or have used one? Who has one on their phone? Who's got a GPS on their phone? Look at that. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, who would have ever thought? I mean, you guys probably don't give that much thought. But I'm old enough where I go back, and the stuff that you can do on the phone now is just, it was just like fantasy world, you know, thinking that stuff like that could happen. D?
No, they're not.
So anyway, the coordinates, that's what GPS and all that kind of stuff, they use this, okay? This is the basic, the very, very basic. Of course, it gets much, much more difficult. We're not going to get much more difficult than this, but it does, this whole entire system. By the way, we call this a rectangular coordinate system, if you want to jot that down. Rectangular coordinate system. That's what this whole thing is, with the X and Y axis, with the quadrants, with the points, with the origin, with all that stuff. They give it a fancy name. They call it the rectangular coordinate system. Okay, enough of that. Let's do what we're really wanting to do here, and that's plot some points. So if I put a point, let's say right here, okay, and I want to get to that point, and I want to tell somebody how to get to that point. You're going to start at the origin, right? That's where we always start. Origin means beginning, so we're going to begin at the origin. So I need to get to this point. Now, you're not going to go straight across. I told my other class, I said, think about being in New York City. In New York City, with the rare exception of one or two roads, I think Broadway kind of goes diagonal in Manhattan, but almost every road goes north, south, or east and west, all right? Because there's blocks. Who's been in New York, all right? Have you done that, right? If you want to get from point A to point B, you don't go straight from here to here, do you, normally? You go up and you go over, or you go over and you go up, depending on the best way to get there. On a coordinate system, what we do is we always go in the same direction first, and then the other direction second. So in order to get to this point from the origin, we always go to the right or left, okay? So we go across, over, along the x-axis, okay? So we go in the x direction first, and then we go in the what? Y direction. And we show that by this thing right here. We always go in the x direction first, and then in the y direction. We have a special name for that whole system, that whole thing right there. It's two words. Starts with an O. No? You almost had it right until I said it starts with an O. Okay, what is it?
Ordered pair.
Very good. It's an ordered pair. What were you going to say? Okay, so this is an ordered pair. And these words make sense because the word order, it has to be in a particular order. The X has to go first and the Y has to go second. It's a pair, of course. Why? Why is it a pair? There's two of them, right? It's an ordered pair. It has to go X and it has to go Y. Let's go back to this point. I want to get to this point. I want to explain to you how to get to that point. So what I do is we all have the same starting point. I said, okay, go to the right, what? 3, and then go up, what? 2. So instead of saying that all the time, instead of using those words, go to the right and go up, we just say go to the ordered pair, what? 3, 2. All right? Or go to the, what word? What's the word? Coordinate. All right? What's the coordinate of this point? It's 3, 2. So when they ask for the coordinate, they're asking for the ordered pair. All right? The location, where it is. Make sense? Because if you're in New York, normally you can't just go straight across like that. You got to go over so many blocks and up so many blocks to get to a certain point. Think of it like that. We good with that? All right, let's do some other ones and let's see how good you are at this. Let's go in the third quadrant. Let's go right here. All right, that point right there. Now kind of estimate, if I'm not directly below it, kind of estimate where it is. So where do you think? You start here, what would this ordered pair be right here? -2, not just 2. It's -2, -4. Okay? So it's -2, put a comma, and put a, oops, almost forgot the negative myself, -4. -2, -4, put it in parentheses, don't forget the parentheses, and a comma in between. That's an ordered pair. Everybody got it? Let's get a little trickier here. Let's put a point right here. Where do you think that is? All right, I got 2 answers. I got -2, 0, and 0, -2. Which one is it? It's -2, 0. That's right, because you start here and you go which direction first? You got to go to the x direction first or to the left. So we go -2 in the x direction, and then how far in the y direction? 0. Right, we don't go anywhere because we're already there, aren't we? So it's -2, 0. So -2, 0. Some people do get those mixed up. That's why I wanted to hit these. What about this point right here? That's right. You go x direction first. So how far do we go left and right? We go 0. We don't go anywhere. And then you go up 3. So that's the y direction. So that ordered pair is 0, 3. Everybody got that? Okay, cool. Let me just look in the book. I think we're good on this. Oh, what's the coordinates of the origin?
0.
Good, 0, 0. All right, so the origin is at 0, 0. I think we covered pretty much everything. We've covered on the axis, covered one of the quadrants. Let's do this. I did this in the other class. What are the signs of any point in the first quadrant? Like if I was going to go to this point right here, what's the signs? You go over positive and you go what? Up positive. So watch this. If I wanted to put an ordered pair just for the signs, what would this ordered pair be? Positive, positive, plus, plus. What about the second quadrant? Negative, positive. And in the third quadrant? Negative, negative. And in the fourth quadrant? Positive, negative. Good. All right, so everything in that quadrant will be those signs. You good with that? All right, let's pause this. Let's get rid of this mess, and we're going to do one more thing. All right, if you look, you don't have a book anyway. I was going to say look on page. You don't have a book. This is what they're going to ask you to do. They throw a couple geometry words in here they haven't defined yet, but I'll just explain it real quick. It says graph a polygon. A polygon is basically just a shape. All right, it's a certain shape. It's a closed shape with vertices of, and then they list the 4 vertices. The vertices are just points, okay? Vertices is a plural for vertex. Vertex is just a point. We'll go into a lot more detail on this next week when we hit that stuff, okay? But this is what they give you. They give you 4 points. They give you A, B, C, and D. And right after the A, they give an ordered pair. Same thing with the B, the C, and the D. And what they're going to do is they're going to ask you to just graph it and make a polygon out of it, which means make a shape out of it. All right, so here's the first point. Point A is -3, 3. Point B is at 1, 3. Point C is at 0, 1. And point D is at -4, 1. All right, so let's plot this. Now, if I was going to take the time, I could probably make this so everything's evenly spaced or have some nice graph paper. I think this actually does have like a graph overlay, but I'd sit here for 5 minutes trying to figure out what it is. I did it last year. I just forget off the top of my head right now. But this will be good enough for us, don't you think? Good. If you want to use graph paper on this, when you do this for homework, you can. If you just want to do this on a regular sheet of paper, it's fine as well. So let's plot these points. -3, 3. 1, 2, 3 to the left, and what? 1, 2, 3 up right there. So that would be point A. Point B is 1, 3 to the right 1, up 3 right there. That's point B. Point C is 0, 1. Be right there. That's C. And then point D is -4, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 right there, and that's point D. Okay. Now watch. I'm running out of time, so I got to do this really quick, and I'm not using my straight line thingy. And wow, that looks terrible. All right, that's close up. Looks like a wavy flag. All right. In the last class, I actually used the straight lines. I had a little extra time, but I'm running out of time. I only got 20 seconds. So we actually call this a parallelogram. You don't even have to name it. You just have to draw it. That's your answer right there. Okay? And that's about it. That's all you're going to be doing for your worksheet. Everybody good? All right, that's done.